Derby Wars, racing's biggest contest site, is now even bigger with more than 200 games every day. Check out Survivor, Derby Wars' hottest new game. It's fun, easy to play, and for just $4 you could win $1,000. Just pick a horse to finish first, second, or third and advance to the next race. With daily payouts and games starting every hour, you'll see why fans are racing to play Survivor.
Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and today I have the great pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. Where are you today, Matt?
Brian, I'm in Boston on a little vacation, but you know what? HorseCenter must go on.
The show must go on, Matt, and you're getting closer to Saratoga. Mileage-wise, we're all getting closer to Saratoga on the calendar. Saratoga soon, Del Mar sooner than them. But right now, Matt, we have a lot to cover here. 2 weeks of big races after our special edition last week. So let's jump right in. We're going to go to the Gold Cup at Santa Anita and another big win for the upstart Melatonin.
Yeah, Brian, it was a terrific performance by that older horse who seems to be getting better and better. I loved his determination down the stretch, and it's a good thing winning races at Santa Anita in 2016.
Yeah, the Breeders' Cup, Matt, that's where the Breeders' Cup is going to be. So any horse that likes Santa Anita, has an affinity for Santa Anita, is ahead of the game moving forward. Now, Melatonin, as you mentioned, is an older horse. He's been through a lot in his career, health-wise. He's had issues, Matt, but he looks great. I think right behind California Chrome and Frosted, perhaps, on the older male list. He won twice now, the Big Cap and the Gold Cup at 10 furlongs out there. So all things considered, we have to give him respect as we move closer to the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, Brian, trainer David Hoffman's has done great things with that horse.
Absolutely. Now, Matt, in the Gold Cup, I think he was the benefit of a little bit of an easier pace than I think he might see down the road with speedy horses such as California Chrome, Beholder, Nyquist. And obviously the class will be tougher from here. But this was another impressive performance, much like his Big Cap. Is he a real threat, Matt, do you think, off this performance? He's going to get a rest now, and then he's going to come back in the fall. Is he a real threat for the Breeders' Cup?
I agree with what you said, Brian. It's still a step up when you think about it, that he's going to have to tangle with Chrome and Beholder and Nyquist. I love what Melatonin has done so far this year, but he's going to have to get another notch better to compete with those horses.
Fair enough, Matt, although I've seen it done like this before. I remember a horse named Black Tie Affair who had speed like Churchill, and he just kept going, so you never know. Melatonin deserves our respect after another big win in California. 10 furlongs, Santa Anita. Matt, another big performance came a little bit more recently, and that was at Belmont Park. Off the tracks, ever since her debut last year, has been a filly that we've kind of kept an eye on. She had a very nice win at Saratoga last summer. Fell off the radar a little bit, coming back, getting beat by Go Maggie Go at Gulfstream. But her last few races, Matt, she did have some traffic in the Acorn when she was second in a good field. And now we saw what she can do with clear sailing in the Mother Goose. Big performance.
Yeah, Too Close to Call was just a tremendous performance on a Belmont Park racetrack that was playing extremely fast, and she was right out there setting the early fractions and coming around the turn. Everybody was thinking, wow, can she keep going after doing a 109 and change? And she just kept running, and tremendous job. Again, flattering Karina Mia even further off of that Acorn performance.
Yeah, but remember, she did have some traffic issues in that Acorn, Matt, so I'm looking forward to seeing her take another shot at Karina Mia. Now, that another shot, of course, may be with Songbird in the mix. We're going to talk more about her later. But right now, I'm not sure that Off the Tracks isn't the best East Coast 3-year-old filly. I liked Karina Mia a ton in the Acorn, so she's still probably number one on my East Coast list. But Off the Tracks, fast early, and she really just was proven best down the stretch. Rachel's Valentina did not run. Lewis Bay did, though. Nice filly, and off the tracks was just better. So a nice filly. We know she likes Saratoga, Matt. Moving forward off the tracks has thrown her name into an already deep 3-year-old filly division.
Yeah, an already deep and terrific 3-year-old filly division that we can look forward to in Saratoga.
Yeah, a daughter of Curlin, so distance might not be an issue for off the tracks. Okay, so we talked about the 3-year-old filly, Matt. There was a lot of 3-year-old male races going on the last 2 weeks. Let's start north of the border, Matt. I'm going to give you 3 words, and I want to hear your honest reaction, your immediate reaction to the 3 words. Sir Dudley Digges.
Well, I got a lot of reactions. First of all, I love that name. And, you know, I give Ken Ramsey all the credit in the world because he's willing to take his horses anywhere and take a shot in all the big races. And how many times has it paid off for the Ramseys? And once again, up at Woodbine in the Queen's Plate, Ramsey horse gets the win. Julian Leparoux, the beat goes on for him. What a year he's having. He made the right choice of horses for the weekend, going to Woodbine and getting the Queen's Plate.
Yeah, nice performance. He dug in late. Diggs dug in late, Matt, was the story of the Queen's Plate. I thought Amy's Gizmo, the favorite, might have been home free at the 8th pole or so because it looked like Sir Dudley was kind of spinning his wheels a little bit, but he really brought it home late. 204 and change. We don't know how these horses compare on a level with American horses. I kind of think probably not nearly as good right now. In fact, Matt, I'm going to say this, the best 3-year-old to run, the best Canadian-bred 3-year-old to run on that card won the Charlie Barley earlier in the card, and his name is Conquest Enforcer.
Okay, well, Brian, we'll take your word on that.
All right. Conquest Enforcer is a horse to watch out for. So is Mo Tom, Matt. He's had some tough luck. After he won the Lecomte early in the year, he beat a horse called Destin in there. He had trouble along the way. I guess it was the Risen Star Stakes, the Louisiana Derby, even the Kentucky Derby. No traffic trouble in the Ohio Derby, though.
Yeah, that was a feel-good victory for me because I was a big fan of Mo Tom in the Risen Star and in the Louisiana Derby, and those bad trips. Everybody was thinking the same thing. Is he a horse that just gets himself in trouble? But Javier Castellano up kept him clear all the way. He should have been much the best in the Ohio Derby, and he was way much the best. And vindication there for that horse. And going down the 3-year-old division path the rest of the year, he's a horse that we have to pay attention to again. So I was really happy to see Mo Tom get that win.
Nice win in the Ohio Derby, Matt. Javi wasn't going to get to the rail with a 10-foot pole at Thistledown. He stayed way wide, making sure not to have any traffic trouble with this son of Uncle Mo, and it was an impressive win in the Ohio Derby. Obviously, I still have Nyquist as the best 3-year-old colt in America, but I think Mo Tom is in the list, and it's a long list of horses that are not that far behind Nyquist that could pop up in races, big races, like the Travers. Speaking of other 3-year-old colts, Matt, there was the Iowa Derby this past weekend, and it was a Bob Baffert lightly raced colt named American Freedom skipping away from a field I want to talk more about, but what do you think?
Yep, easy performance again. That's the way you like to see a big favorite win his race, and drew off handily in, I think that what everybody agrees was a prep race for the Haskell.
Yeah, we're going to see him challenge Gunrunner, and this race was compared to the Matt win at Churchill Downs. I personally thought Gunrunner looked much more impressive at Churchill than American Freedom did at Prairie Meadows. I'm not sold on American Freedom at all yet. He got a graded stakes win. I don't know that he's the best 3-year-old in Baffert's barn. I don't think he is. More on that later. But taking on Gunrunner and possibly Nyquist in the Haskell is going to be a whole lot harder for the Iowa Derby winner, American Freedom.
Yeah, I agree with that, Brian. You know, if American Freedom is going to be Baffert's Haskell horse, he might have a little trouble winning his 9th Haskell this year with that horse.
I'm shaking my head, Matt, because I can't believe he's already won 8. Incredible. Incredible. Who won last year, Matt? I forgot.
Yeah.
American Pharoah, of course, folks. Hey, one more story out of Baffert 3-year-old story, and that was the upset, the heavily favored upset of Danzig Candy in the affirmed. Dalmore beat him, Matt. I'm not ready to put either one of these into the upper echelon of 3-year-old colts.
Yeah, I'm not either, Brian. Danzig Candy, as you said, changed barns from Clifford Seiss on the Derby Trail over to Baffert, and it didn't seem to make too much of a difference. Danzig Candy got out in front on the lead, and then ran out of juice coming down the stretch. I think shorter distances should be the path for that one. And again, Dalmore, nice win, but not high on my list with this 3-year-old class.
Yeah, a lot of people love Danzig Candy. I was never really on the bandwagon. I think it's a shame that after he was a lamb led to too much in the Kentucky Derby that they knocked off Mr. Sicey. Baffert got him, big favorite in the affirmed, and he failed. Dalmore, nice win for him, but we're going to move on, Matt. Big doings in the turf division, I thought, and big doings in the sprint division the last 2 weeks. One of them happened at Monmouth Park. I think you were there, right, for the United Nations?
I was there for the United Nations. Always a big race at Monmouth, one of the 2 Grade 1s that they have left at the Jersey Shore, and World Approval got his Grade 1 win after getting 2nd and 3rd in the big Grade 1s this spring, running behind some really good horses like Divisadero and
Flintshire.
Flintshire, right, Brian? He was ridden so confidently by Florent Giroux for Team Cassie, sat right behind, a long shot on the lead, and Giroux was totally confident that horse would come back, and he did, and took command down the stretch. Very nice win. Very nice turf horse that, Brian, I know you've liked earlier in the spring.
Well, more importantly, Matt, the Cassie team has liked World Approval. He's out of a nice mare named Win Approval. World Approval is a horse, yeah, you're right. He was knocking on the door several races in a row, most notably at Churchill Downs on Derby Day, at Belmont Park on Belmont Stakes Day. I could have won either of those. Maybe Flintshire was a little too much for him at Belmont Park. But I'll tell you what, this performance was big. Florent Giroux, like you mentioned, he beat all those good brown horses, which we know is not easy to do on the turf. And World Approval shot right up to number 2 on my latest list of the best turf males in America, Matt. But a sprinter the week before shot all the way up to number 1 on my list of male sprinters. His name is Lord Nelson. Unfortunately, I don't know how much that's saying yet as far as the sprint division goes.
Yeah, well, I think it's saying what we know all year long, and I don't think it's going to change very much, Brian, that division is going to be wide open until we get to the Breeders' Cup in November. But it was a terrific performance by Lord Nelson. I'll tell you, Brian, coming around the turn into the stretch, I thought the horse was beat, but he got him going and made a big move and surged to the lead coming down the stretch in what turned out to be a very, very nice performance.
Yeah, Lord Nelson has always been a good horse, Matt, a talented horse. Now he's designated to be a sprinter, and I think that's a great move. Lord Nelson looks like one of the best. I think the horses he beat in this race also are some of America's best sprinters, and at the moment, some of America's best chances for the Breeders' Cup Sprint at Santa Anita. Subtle Indian ran a good race to be 2nd. Obviously, Kobe's back. Probably moved a little too soon and was 3rd. I think any one of those 3 horses should be Breeders' Cup Sprint contenders. We don't know Run Happy if he's coming back, when he's coming back. They're pointing for 2-turn races, or they're pointing for longer races, especially the Pegasus World Cup in January. So it's far from a done deal that we see Run Happy sprinting at all this year. Maybe they changed their mind with his extended layoff. Private Zone, we're still waiting for his comeback. As of now, Lord Nelson tops the list for me.
Yep, Private Zone's going to be back. XY Jet is going to go get back into training, and they've announced, race or two, and then they're headed to the Breeders' Cup. So with those two in there, like I said, it's going to be an interesting division.
Yeah, well, I'll wait until I see it for those two. They're not back yet. Matt, let's just I think we just showed 8 races on this HorseCenter, which was fun. We went through them fast, but there's so much more to talk about. Spelling again, game. Delta Bluesman, impressive. Dearest looks like a serious 3-year-old filly. They all won in the Summit of Speed Card at Gulfstream Park, very impressively. Horses that I think that we need to pay attention to as we move into the second half of the year, Matt. Arrogate looks like the real deal, a son of Unbridled Song that Bob Baffert loves. He's probably Baffert's best 3-year-old, although he is yet to try Stakes Company. Dre Fong is back. Dre Fong is a horse we've been watching since his maiden win. He won yesterday at Santa Anita. Comfort, a son of Indian Charlie in the Todd Pletcher barn. Pletcher has brought a lot of these lightly raced 4-year-olds back to do big things. Comfort may be another one. And Matt, Far From Over finally came back, and he was a winner.
Yeah, far from over after close to a year and a half. He came out big, a really super performance after that kind of layoff. That's a horse that so many of us liked on the Derby Trail back a year or so ago, and I look for good things from that one, also from the Pletcher barn.
Yeah, Pletcher is loaded. Pletcher is loaded. We've said it before. We'll say it again. He's loaded for the summer, and he's got some horses lightly raced, 4-year-olds coming back. Comfort, I think, is probably a horse that's the real deal. Dre Fong, I think, is a sprint contender for the Breeders' Cup, another one. And Arrogate looks awfully good, Matt. Arrogate is pointed to the Travers. He'll need a prep first, but watch out for him. Another colt, even younger colt that I was very impressed with, happened at Churchill Downs in the Bashford Manor. His name is Classic Empire. I didn't think anybody was going to run down Recruiting Ready in that race, and Classic Empire did it. They were 9 lengths ahead of the third horse. They ran 109, Matt. Classic Empire has breeding to run long.
Yeah, he does, Brian, and that usually that early 2-year-old stake at Churchill doesn't produce much as we head to the Derby Trail. But like you said, Brian, this one's got the breeding to do good things as the summer goes on and then into the sophomore season. I love when the 2-year-olds start coming up. I've seen several good ones already, and I'm sure we'll see more coming out at Saratoga.
Absolutely, Matt, and I agree with you. The Bashford Manor doesn't have the greatest history leading forward into even the fall and especially next year. But I have a feeling this year it will. Those are 2 good horses, and Classic Empire, especially moving forward at a distance, is a horse to watch. Another son of Pioneer of the Nile. Matt, finally, before we leave this episode of HorseCenter, decisions, Matt. 2016, where's Songbird going to come back? What's Nyquist's next race going to be? Any opinions on those, Matt?
Well, I sure hope that Songbird comes back at Saratoga and faces all these good 3-year-old fillies that we've been talking about. It's time for Songbird to get ready for the big races, to get ready for the Breeders' Cup and face a little bit tougher competition. And I know there's been a lot of talk about Nyquist running in California, in the San Diego. I don't see that happening, Brian. That doesn't make any sense to me. There's big money in Haskell. They got incentives as the Derby winner to run in the Haskell. They need to win that 3-year-old division. That should be their first goal. And then if things are going well, then you take a shot in the Classic later on. But let's get that 3-year-old championship, Nyquist, first.
Well, Haskell would go a long way to pushing him farther on top, Matt, and of course a Travers win, I think, would clinch a 3-year-old championship for Nyquist. I'm with you there. I think it makes a little bit more sense to send him east, but if he goes into San Diego, that just adds to what is looking like a really good race starring California Chrome, and very well could have Firing Line and Dortmund returning. So that's interesting. Songbird, I tell you what, they're talking Delaware. Rick Porter has a big history at Delaware Park. I don't really want to see her in the Oaks. Maybe against older horses in the Delaware Handicap at 1.25 miles would be an interesting prep for the Alabama. They're still saying the Alabama is where they're going at the end of the summer, and that's good. See her in a big race at Saratoga, 10 furlongs. Hopefully some of those we've talked about will be there. But either way, Songbird is the filly we want to see do even more. Another great edition of HorseCenter, Matt. As always, I want to thank the best contest site in the business, our sponsor, Derby Wars. Matt, any closing remarks?
I want to thank our best producer, Ember Mar.
Ember Mar. Thank you, Ember. And folks, thank you again for watching. We'll be back next week with so much more. There's a huge card at Belmont Park next week, led by the Belmont Derby, the Belmont Oaks, the Dwyer, the Suburban, the list goes on. Big day at Arlington Park. And I think we're going to talk Del Mar and Saratoga soon, Matt.
Yep, sounds great. I will be at Belmont Park for that big day next Saturday, and I look forward to seeing some of you HorseCenter fans there. And as always, thank you everybody for watching the show.
We'll see you next week, folks.